guys, so in this video I'm going to show you how to do a provisional cast on. So a provisional cast on is really good for when you want to actually go back and work the stitches for the cast on. So for this one here, for this pattern Flickers of Skadi, it is used to graft the edges together, but often it is also used if you're going to be doing an I-cord bind off across the bottom of the garment, or if you're going to be doing directional knitting, so you knit one direction and then you come back where the provisional cast on is and then knit in the other direction. So it's actually very easy to do, and it opens up a world of possibilities for different styles of knitting. So what you need to do a provisional cast on is some scrap yarn. So this scrap yarn here is actually just a whole ball of 100% cotton, and when doing a provisional cast on, it is quite a good idea to use a plant-based yarn, especially when you're working with non-superwash yarns, as the fibres can start to stick together. So when you're doing a provisional cast on, you do actually have to undo this little chain cast on, and that means if you're using a wool, a lot of the time with wool the fibres interlock together, so it can be a bit tricky to undo. So if you're going to do it, definitely try something that's silky, and that is why I like to use 100% cotton plant-based yarn. And you don't need a lot. This is just a ball I have that I use for all uses when I need to use scrap yarn, and it's a DK weight for the cotton. The weight doesn't really matter as per se, because it is not the tension you're going for. All you have to really worry about is that the holes of the chain are going to be big enough. So that is why I use a crochet hook a little bit bigger than what you would think you would use. This one is a 3.75mm or a size F, and the combination of the size hook with the cotton yarn for doing the crochet cast on, or the provisional cast on, it works really well with fingering weight yarn. And of course you will need the yarn that you'll be actually knitting the project with, plus a pair of needles for the correct size and the pattern, and then some scissors for snipping the scrap yarn. So to start, you just simply make a slip knot with your scrap yarn. So how I do that is I just bring the yarn sort of from the back and up and over my thumb, make a loop, sort of pinch it here, and then you bring this little bit that's the trailing here in behind, flicking it in through, just like a good old slip knot, and then give that a bit of a tug, wind off a bit of yarn. And so then you're going to do a crochet chain. Crocheting can be a little bit different to get used to if you are used to doing English style and you knit predominantly with your right hand. So just have a little bit of a play around to get the yarn tensioning in your left. So I simply just wrap it around my pinky, and then so it's looping, and then across my two middle fingers, and then around my index. So that's how I tension it. It's just as a play to see what you feel comfortable with, and then you pull down on this loop so it can actually be bringing in this loop, making it a little bit easier to get through the first few stitches of the chain. So it's round behind, get the yarn strand in the hook and pull through. So you always want the yarn behind the hook towards the back, like that. So get the hook, go round and under and pull through. Do another one a little bit closer up. So round and under and pull through. A lot of the time, especially when you're doing the first few stitches of the chain, I sort of really maneuver it a bit, holding onto the little tail of the slip knot. So round and under and pull through. And you want to be fairly loose, because you will be putting your needles through these, your knitting needles through the chain. So the first few chain stitches might be a bit tight, but you don't actually have to use them for doing the provisional cast on. But for the rest, you want to have nice, loose chains. You just keep on doing it, and to get them loose you sort of have this holey loopy bit here looser, and you tug down more on the chain that's already been worked. So the more you pull it, the more it will come through. So you don't want to be too loose, as it's not going to really, you're going to be using heaps of scrap yarn up. But just a good chain, and the tension does not have to be perfect and even, as this will not be actually used in the final finished object. It's just to get to start with. So in the pattern it will say how many stitches to cast on. So for every cast on stitch you need a chain to be able to work into. So often I will get, for example, if it's going to be 100 stitches you need to cast on with, I will have 100 chains. So you can sort of see here how it kind of looks a bit like a knit stitch, how it's kind of the little loop there, starting from there and there, that bit in between is a chain. Just like you think like a chain bracelet, the little chain of it. So for casting on, I often will do, let's say 100 stitches the pattern says, but I will do a bit more. I might do 110. So if you've found that some of your stitches you've been a bit too tight and you can't get your needle comfortably in, you've got a little bit of extra leeway. And of course with doing the provisional cast on, not all stitches have to be used and they don't have to be next to each other. So for example this one here, you might go into this one, skip this one, and go into this one if this one here had been too tight. So just keep chaining until you've got the amount of stitches you need to use for the cast on, and then a few extra ones just for a bit of fat. So once you've got the amount of chains that you need for the stitch amount cast on, plus a few extra for that bit of fat, you just snip the scrap yarn, because you no longer need that. So then you're going to just pull through this little bit of yarn to tie it off technically. So instead of holding it here like you normally do with the yarn connected, you're just going to pull it straight through, and that does like a little wee knot. Now that you've got a nice chain, you are going to use your knitting needles and the working yarn. So to start, you want to be knitting from left to right. So often I like to make sure the chain is going in the direction that you have crocheted it. It just seems to make it a little bit easier. So I'll start towards down here, and as you can see these chains here are a little bit tight. So I'll just go up in here and start up in here where it's nice and loose. And of course when you are chaining on the amount you need, make sure you do not count the chains that are going to be too tight if you don't want to use them. So we'll get our needle and you just insert it just like you're going to normally knit, like kind of think like picking up stitches, and you're going to put it in the little hole chain, and then you get your working yarn, and make sure you leave a bit of a tail so you're going to have room to weave it in. So that probably is about a nice amount there for doing a bit of weaving in. And then you just wrap it, starting sort of like from back and around, just like you're going to normally knit. The first one, kind of do like a loop if that helps. So we've got the yarn connected to the ball is now at the front, and then the yarn that will be for the tail, and weaving it at the end at the back. And you just pull it through just like you're going to be doing, think, with a knit, a normal knit stitch. So then you want the yarn, the crochet towards the back, with like the start of the crochet and where the chains are a bit tighter at the bottom, and then you're just going to go into the next stitch, which is here, because you can see this is wrapping around this chain, and then we're going to go in to this one here. Go into this one here. And also a good way to make sure that it is the second different chain is that you've got this little loop of yarn separating them, and then just wrap it through like you normally knit. And you can also see that you've done that right, because there is that little loop dividing. So Then you go into the next chain, wrap it through, and in the next one. So if you've done picking up stitches before, it's very much the same thing. And you do that until you've got the amount of stitches that you need for the pattern. So I have gone ahead and knitted the bit of the chain, and then with the last stitch here where we did the little pull through for the scrap yarn, you don't want to knit that chain. Otherwise it can just weaken it, and you want that to stay strong. You want these ends not to undo. Ends to undo when you are knitting, only when you want to undo it at the very end. So now you just, whatever the pattern says, you will continue to work flat, or you can join it in the round. And that is your provisional cast on. Done. Very simple, very easy. And you'll see it's still got like a little chainy look towards the bottom of it. And then that is how it looks on the wrong side. So with this one here, it's all been worked in pattern. You can see it's got like a little chain at the start, and this is on the right side, and on the wrong side it just kind of looks a bit like picked up stitches gone wrong, really. So that is how to do a provisional cast on. Hopefully that gives you a good idea on how to do it. So if you enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up. Make sure to push subscribe so you get more of these tutorials in your YouTube subscription feed. Okay, bye!